Welcome back, everybody. Today I'm back with a comparison of cheap versus expensive bread slicers. I've got one that was about $5, one that was about 30. How do they compare? Let's find out in today's review. Let's first flash back to the unboxing and then get started. All right, let's take a look at the cheap bread slicer here. I paid $4.34 for this. It usually runs $5 to $6 and it has a very unimpressive 3.3 star rating on Amazon. All right, it just feels like a lot of plastic in here. No real instructions either. I guess I don't really need them, but they don't have any, even if I did. Now the claims that it's a premium quality with ABS resin material. They say it's beautifully designed. You can cut anything into equal slices. Adjustable thickness with 4 options from 10 to 25 millimeters. People on Amazon who liked it, despite its poor rating, there were a few people that did like it. They said it was a good value, easy to assemble, easy to store. Now quite a few people didn't like it. Some people said it was wobbly, flimsy, breaks easily, or too small for larger loaves. Let's take a look at the Bambusi Collection bread slicing kit with knife, crumb tray, and storage bag. I paid about $30 for this. It's currently the #1 bestseller in its category. Take a look at the packaging. There's the included knife there. It's much heavier, much more rugged feeling. Now the claims, they say it delivers even slices of 3 thickness levels, non-slip bottom. Comes with an included knife, folds down for compact storage. Includes a crumb catcher made of durable bamboo. All right, here we have a bread knife. Now on Amazon, those who like it, a lot of people praise it for its durable construction and compact storage feature. Now those who didn't like it, some people said that the knife was too small, others said it doesn't create uniform slices. Some people said it creates splinters. All right, quick overview here. Now one thing I should point out that the cheap model is, and I say cheap in more ways than one, it's pretty cheap. And the way this one is put together, you have a backing here and these sides kind of go on. It's very cheap. It feels kind of flimsy. It's cheap. The other thing is it's supposed to have 4 different thicknesses. I don't see it. These are all exactly the same size. There's nothing to adjust. People on Amazon were saying it's not adjustable. I don't see anything to adjust. 4 sizes, I don't see it. This one does adjust, but the way this one was set up is it has a backing also, and you pull these sides down to release them. Now some people had it like this. They were saying you couldn't cut the bread all the way through. They had it upside down. It actually goes this way. So it sits on top and the crumb tray is below. Backing goes here. Now there are 3 sizes here. This section here has the smallest size. This middle section, they have medium. The large section has the larger sizes. Now neither one of them you can adjust the width wise. So if you've got some skinny bread, you're kind of out of luck. You're gonna have to just kind of work with that. So what I wanna do now, I wanna start off with the cheap one. Let's try the cheap one first here. I'm gonna use the same knife though. I'm going to use the knife that came with the more expensive model for both these tests. So what happens when you have a nice big loaf of bread like this? You got a lot hanging over here. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut off the end here. Oh wow, do you hear that? Oh, it sounds gruesome. It sounds really bad. I'm going to try to hold the unit and the bread with my left hand and cut with my right and see what happens. Wow, that just sounds bad. All right, let's see what we got here on the first cut here. They're relatively even, honestly. Let's see how thick they are. These slices are right at a ½ inch. I would say right about ½ inch, but there's a horrendous sound when you're using this thing. It's squeaking, it's moving around, it doesn't feel very steady. And there's obviously no crumb catcher. I got crumbs all over the counter here. Let's try the more expensive one here. I'm gonna try all 3 different sizes on this bread here. I'll do a couple thin, medium, and thick slices. Here we go. All right, I'm already noticing this knife is a bit short. When you're using that sawing motion, it's kind of coming out. So people were complaining about the knife was too short. They might be right. I'm working with it though, but the knife is kind of small. But these are the thin slices here. Pretty uniform. And these are about 3/8 of an inch thick. I'm gonna move to the medium section now and see what we got there. I also noticed I'm kind of making some marks in the bottom as I get to the bottom of it. All right, medium slices are cut. They look pretty uniform. And these are about ½ inch. So the mediums on this one are the same as the only size you get on the cheap one. Time for some thick slices. All right, the thick slices, the center one looks a little bit thicker than the others. So I don't know, that one didn't feel as even. It could have been technique. Maybe it's something that I did, but I didn't get as uniform on this one as I did the others. The thickest one is measured about 5/8. So we have 3/8, 1/2 inch, 5/8. We do have crumbs in the bottom, which is nice that it captured them there. All right, so after the first round, I think my initial impression of the first slicer has been lessened. Let me show you why. That is a splinter. That is a splinter right there. So is that. We've got cut marks on the bottom after a single use. There's a splinter down there as well. There's one there too. The majority of comments in this one are pretty good. There's a kind of a vocal minority talking about the bottom being cut, talking about splinters. Now I see why I'm starting to align myself with a minority on this one. It cut pretty well, but those issues are kind of deal breakers to me. Someone online suggested putting a small cutting board in here, but mine doesn't quite fit. It's at an angle, so I don't have a cutting board that small. This is the smallest one I could find, and it doesn't work. It'd be kind of tilted if I did. So I'm gonna have to just keep going, but I'm not happy about those concerns at all. I also moved my tablecloth off here so I could make sure these rubber feet are actually working. They weren't working on a tablecloth, but that's to be expected. So I don't know, I'm a little disappointed by those marks in the bottom, and I really can't do much about that. The cheap one has marks in the bottom too, but no splinters in the sides. So I'm just gonna keep moving on. I'm gonna forget about these problems and put in my mind. Hopefully I'm getting splinters in my bread. Now for the next loaf, I've got kind of a wider artisan loaf here, and it does fit in here nicely. Let's see if it fits in the small one. Fits in this one too. I think for the next round, I'm gonna try a different knife. I've got this one. It's not a bread knife, but it's a nice sharp knife. I'm gonna see if it lessens how much damage I do to this unit on the second loaf. Let's start with the cheap slicer first now. I'm just gonna cut the end off of this one to start off. There's definitely no feet on this one. It's sliding around and it makes gruesome sounds. All right, here we go. Okay, the end is cut off. Let's see what we got here. I'm gonna try this one. I feel like it moves around so much, my bread isn't even really that even. Not only does the unit move around, but these move around too. So you don't really get perfectly even slices. Not bad really. It really isn't that bad. They're relatively even-ish, but they're not perfect. All right, let's try it in here, see what we got. Well, it definitely stays in place better. The entire unit and the slots don't move around as much, so that's good. Now I'm worried I'm gonna be making splinters and putting them in my bread. I'm actually avoiding a splinter right there. I see one. I just cut the splinter. Oh, the splinter just fell off. I don't like having splinters next to my food. Okay, let's see what we got in the thin slices here. My thin slices are kind of uneven here as well. And from what I can tell, I've still got more splinters and I've got more marks in the bottoms. So it seems to me like the material on this cutting board isn't really ideal for cutting food on it. It's one thing to have a cutting board with some marks in it, but I'm getting splinters. You can't have splinters in your food, come on. I'm getting unevenness as well. At this point, I'm not really sure if either one of these knives is doing a better job of cutting the bread, but both of them are making marks on both of the bread slicers. Let's just keep going. So far, I'm a little bit underwhelmed here with everything, but let's keep going. How about something like a nice soft zucchini loaf? That might be easier on here. Now, what's interesting about this one, why I got this one, is because it's thin. So let's see how it works. I'm gonna have to put it off to one side here. It's gonna kind of go like that. I'm gonna use the chef's knife for this one. This one should be a little bit different technique because I'm not doing as much of a sawing action as I am just cutting. So, that actually feels like it's pretty good for this type of bread. And in this case, it seems like it's working pretty well, and I'm not putting as much strain on the bottom of the cutter itself. Here's what we got. Pretty even for the cheap unit. Let's move that loaf over here now. I'm gonna go for some medium slices here. Put the backing like that. We're gonna go for some medium slices. Easy. I didn't feel like I cut into the wood so much. Easy. All right, so softer bread, it seems like it's very well suited for. And the loaves are pretty, honestly, they're not perfectly even. You would think the expensive one would be much more even, but I'm not sure there's much of a difference. I'm gonna try something like this jalapeno cheese loaf. This is a very different texture. Let's try this out. Once again, it's kind of thin, so you have to go to the side. I'm just gonna cut this in half. I'll try a slice or two with the bread knife and one with the other knife. Let's see. It's a pretty soft bread, not too bad. Let me try the chef's knife here. Pretty even, pretty even. Let's move over to this particular unit. I'm gonna go with the thick option this time. Try one knife, try the other knife. Oh, I can hear it cutting into the wood. I don't think it's as even. And look at this. There's a splinter I just found in there. That's it. That's it. I'm gonna try cutting a few of these loaves with just eyeballing it with no guides and see how they look. I don't want to cut anymore. I don't trust that with the splinters. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Let's go back to some of the loaves I already did and try it, just eyeballing it, see what we got here. The zucchini loaf, here we go. I'll do 3 slices once again. Right, there's the freaking reviews, no guide slices. Not that bad really. Probably about as good as the others. The cheese loaf, here we go. I'll be totally honest with you, I feel more confident cutting without the guides than with them. Not perfectly uniform, but neither were theirs. Again, not perfect, but neither was theirs. Let's end where we began with this particular loaf. I'm going to use their bread knife once again. To me, that's freaking even. Let's take a look at the final results. You got the cheap column, the expensive column, and the hand slice column. Now the cheap ones don't really look that bad. I mean, the final result isn't terrible. Surprisingly pretty good. The expensive slicer, once again, not so bad, but really for $30 as opposed to $5, it's not that much better. But what's probably the most disappointing to me is that the hand sliced column is just about as good as those, and all I did was use a knife and a cutting board. The problem with this one is we're getting splinters and the board cut very quickly, so I'm not sure if I can justify the cost of either one of them when my results are pretty close. All right, so I gotta say I'm kind of surprised and disappointed in this one because I thought there was gonna be a clear winner. There really isn't. I don't think that the expensive one, even if it works better, those splinters, I can't do that. All right, so in the end, I think that these are really good for really soft bread, maybe right out of a bread maker. Anything that's been sitting is hard, anything that requires any sawing, it's going to cause problems, especially on the expensive one. You're going to get splinters, you're going to cut the bottom, you're going to cut the bottom on both of them. But I'm seeing even more splinters now after a couple of uses. I don't like that at all. This one might be the #1 bestseller, but I have to side with the minority of comments that don't like it because of the splinter issue and because of the way it cuts the bottom. To me though, I'd rather just use my hands and call it good. But if you've tried one of these bread slicers, tell me what you think in the comments below. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.